Hello again, fellow classmates. As usual, for this assignment, I would like to share with you some of the things that stood out to me as I was reading through this week's assigned text, chapters 7 and 8 of The Art of Public Speaking. A couple of things stood out to me in chapter 7 as I was reading through the section on evaluating internet documents that we intend to use to support our speeches and talks. As I was reading through that, I was reminded of times that I've read things on the internet or an article on social media, and that initially shook me up a little or challenged a belief I held or brought into question the integrity of a political candidate or some other leader that I followed or supported. But upon further investigation, I discovered that this information or these alleged facts in these articles were exaggerated, out of context, or just outright false. And through those experiences, I've learned to be very careful about what I believe and trust when getting information from the internet. Because just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's factual. And in fact, most things aren't. The other thing that stood out to me, or that I found interesting, was the section on interviewing. And I found this section to be very helpful. And when the author is giving tips on interviewing, one of those tips is to go ahead and review your notes as soon as you're done with the interview while it's fresh on your mind. That way you can add additional thoughts or information to those notes and you'll have it. And something that kind of goes along with that is something that I've learned to do, especially if you spend a lot of time doing public speaking or doing influential writing that others are going to read. It's just a useful habit that I've developed, that if I have a thought or an insight to something, I'll go ahead and write it down. Because we've all had those moments where our bodies are kind of on autopilot, we're washing the dishes or doing some task, and our mind's deep in thought somewhere, and we have a thought or an insight, a moment of clarity about some issue or something that we're maybe dealing with currently in our lives. And then we go on, finish our task, and then we want to write that thought down, and we try to recall what it was, and we can't get it back. So I found it very helpful just to go ahead as in the moment and just write that thought down, or perhaps I'll put it in my notes app on my phone and then transfer it from my note app to my journal later. And that way I have that insight or that information for future talks and writings. But I found this to be a very useful practice and helpful. So hopefully some of that was beneficial to you guys. Thank you for spending your time with me. Have a blessed week, my friends.